Hello, everybody. I'm here with Constantine. How are you doing, Constantine?
Hello, doing great. How are you guys? Well, it's on here. Yeah, hope everyone is doing great. So
I'm
I may
sh-
have to drop because I have an architecture. I have a call at my job soon. So
okay.
I'm working meanwhile and trying to.
Well, do you want to talk about your fundraiser real quick?
Oh, that would be awesome, Andrew. Thanks. Yep. I don't know if we have audience right now, but we're running a fundraiser right now to have 92nd Brigade and the 82nd Brigade of the Ukrainian Armed Forces. Target is to get the drones and communication equipment. I got in touch with the 92nd Brigade, with 82nd Brigade communications officers. They need small portable Motorola radios, and they've been asking for them quite urgently. So we'll be working on getting those to them. And the drones to the 92nd Brigade. 92nd Brigade is probably most of you have heard is an assault brigade now. They had some changes, and these changes require additional equipment. And this is what I'm gonna try to help them with. It's an absolutely important project that is, can impact what's going on and can save the lives of the troops because, as you know, situational awareness and the communications, proper comms, they absolutely change the game. So that's why we're doing it. And so if you're interested, you can follow my profile on Twitter and click on the link there, and you can donate if you want.
Yeah, and you can share it, which is important. Getting out to different groups of people is really the key. Is because when you're stuck in a little bubble, it gets harder to fundraise because everybody in your bubble has donated, So getting out of that bubble into a bigger bubble or just a different bubble is very useful. So if you can share the link, that'd be great.
Running, running, running bubbles simultaneously, multiple bubbles simultaneously,
Yes,
concurrently.
as many bubbles as possible. I put the link in the description of the video, so you can click that.
All right. Thank you so much, Andrew.
Uh, Yeah. Do you want to describe what exactly is an assault brigade?
So like it's not. There are some open sources. I don't wanna talk about things that have not been in open sources yet. But an assault brigade is like they have mechanized forces right now as being a bit of generally forces in Ukraine being reformed with all the changes with everything that's happening on the battlefield. And the idea right now is that assault forces are responsible for taking over enemy positions, and then you would have more infantry coming in and holding those positions. So the job of the mechanized infantry would be to more defensive, and assault forces will be more obviously assaulting. I know it sounds quite obvious from the names, but that's supposed to be like this. But in reality, what makes it different is that you need different equipment. You need more of some things and less of others. For example, the assault forces, they rely much more on reconnaissance. That's why they need drones more. That's why they need to gather the intelligence about the trenches they're going to be assaulting much better. It does not only includes visual observance, but also electronic warfare observance, because for example, as one of the things that is happening is that um, Russians are setting up a fake command and control posts, fake communication hubs, so that we use them to, mistakenly identify them as source of radio communication and think that there are positions there. So, for example, this equipment is needed for this type of intelligence equipment is needed to identify those positions, decipher, and well, these are like details that I cannot go too much into, but this is what we're focusing on, mostly drones, so helping them with the reconnaissance. So when they are assaulting, they have enough drones for the assaults, because you lose a lot of drones during the assaults, much more than you do than during defensive operations. Because during defensive operation, your idea is you can hold your drone a bit further from the front line, and disallow and save it. When you're doing assaults, you gotta get right into into the trenches, into where the enemy is, because they're hiding, they're trying to conceal, and also you need much more communications. There is a great thread recently posted by an account on Twitter called Tatarigami. He have posted like Russian instructions how to fight Ukrainian assaults. And as you can see there, for example, they say Ukraine uses smaller groups of five people, which means that it's probably roster changes, staff changes in the brigades. And obviously, if you make smaller groups, then you need, for example, if we're talking about communication equipment, you need only one radio per standard squad of 10 people. But now if your group is 5 people, so you need a communication device radio per those 5 people. And of course, then you would need,
Oh no.
because you need, yeah, sorry.
Sorry. No, that's nothing to do with you. I clicked the wrong button.
Yeah, and those are like, simple things that it does not feel like changes much in equipment. Still the radius, it's still the drones. But if you start looking at the consumption of those, you see that it's much higher for the given intensities. So that's why we can step in and we can help, because it's like, that's what we do. We help our military, and that's, those are things that I can discuss openly. I don't want to get more, deeper into the tactics, and there are some sensitive equipment that they're using that, we're obviously not fundraising for that, and it cannot be purchased on the commercial market. So I hope that gives people at least the idea of
Would you like to watch an assault? This is an assault that I think I can actually show on YouTube. Would you like to see it?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
I don't know if you're asking me or the audience.
Yes, I'm asking you. So this assault, it starts. Okay, so I'll just zoom out to show where I am, and I'll change to Google, I guess. So this is near Pisky-Nevels'ke. It's near Urozhaine, to the east. So it's attacking south. This assault started back here, like around here somewhere, and they moved up these tree lines up to around here, which is where this video will start. So this is, you see infantry dismounting out of the 2 BTRs. This tank, unfortunately, had a bad day. This tank was moving up with these, but it got destroyed by something. I think it hit a mine because its track is off. So these BTRs, they dismounted, and now they're struggling to turn around because they're BTRs and they have wheels. And turning around with wheels obviously takes space, and you don't want to drive off the path because it's a minefield. So that is an issue. I guess this is kind of why tracked vehicles are useful, because you can turn without moving so much, But anyway, they drive off, and the infantry begin moving up. So I will go back to the map. So they dismount right here, and they are moving down this forest strip. So that's what's going on here. Very gingerly moving through forest strip. Tons of threats, potential threats, mines, booby traps, all those sorts of things. Yeah, maybe they're not BTRs. I'm not really sure what those vehicles are. I just assume they're BTRs. Whenever I see wheeled vehicle, I just assume it's a BTR. But maybe there's some weird Finnish thing or something. So anyways, so they are moving on up to this position. I don't know exactly where this is because it's very difficult to see, but I think it's right here. I think it's right here. And the reason I think that is because on the satellite, there's a gap in the trees here at this exact location. And I think the gap, you see the gap in the trees in this video, and there's a gap on the satellite. So I think that's roughly where this is. So this is a little Russian. Anyway, I'm going to skip part of it to this part. Okay. Because there's things that we're not supposed to show in that part. Okay. So Konstantin, what do you think of this video? Because this is kind of showing a lot of the parts of an assault that we usually don't see. We usually see like the action, whereas a spoiler, this video doesn't have any action. It just kind of shows them moving up and into position. And then they start fighting, but this doesn't show the fighting. So what do you think of this, Konstantin?
So what I think about this, first of all, is that when you stream live, I don't see the videos they got the
I'm streaming it to you though.
It's blurry, because it's not enough. The bandwidth for some reason it's not enough, and it's all blurry. Yeah, right now I can see. So, yeah, we can see the enemies over there. We can see the fighting starts here.
Yeah. So these are the two Russians. And so this is a squad of infantry. So one thing that I find interesting is that they dismounted 2 vehicles worth of infantry, but only 1 vehicle worth is here in the assault. So, I mean, I think that's kind of common sense to do that, but it's just something to point out.
Well, in this video, it's the defenders. I mean, maybe they have a chance, but it seems like they're too late already. Because you see, you got so close, and the front-facing trenches appear to be empty.
Yeah. Yeah. So. There's not much more of this video I can show.
Yeah.
But anyways, so that's that video. This video doesn't show the outcome of the attack or the aftermath or anything like that. I'll just tell you what happened next. The Russian threw like 2 grenades, and then the Ukrainian threw a grenade, and then the video is over. So that's the rest of the video. And I don't really want to show that part. But anyways, it doesn't say what happened next, but we do know that over let me get my green eyeball. Over the next few days after this assault, all these trays started to disappear from extremely heavy shelling, and I think Ukraine captured it. So I think that was the outcome. I think Ukraine pretty much captured this position, or if not, I think they pushed Russia out of it, and it's a gray area. So anyways, that's just a little assault, a video that I don't know if it came out today, but I saw it for the first time like an hour and a half ago. So so yeah, that was one little attack, Constantine.
Nice attack.
I have a whole bunch of green eyeballs to talk about. Green eyeballs are satellite images, basically. It's all of the interesting locations. Now, first off, south of we're about to know. I never know how to say this. Anyway, so south of the town, there were a bunch of reports today from Russians claiming that Ukraine has pushed to the forest landing or the forest strip south of the town. That Ukraine is apparently set up there now. They've dug in, they claim, the Russians claim, and that the attack is now progressing south from there. Now, this is potentially evidence of this having happened, although this evidence is not from today, it's from yesterday. And even more so, even more to the point, it's not even from yesterday, it's actually from like 3 days ago. So it seemed, or 4 days ago, it seems that there's been pretty heavy fighting going on right here in this forest strip that is directly south. And it is very, very much right here. It's not so much to the east and not so much to the west. It's just really specifically right here. So this kind of lines up with all of these stories that the Russians have been telling today. They say that it's a new event that happened today, but it seems that this actually happened like 3 or 4 days ago, which is interesting to me. Is there anything you want to say about attacking south from here?
No, man. Can you zoom out a bit? A bit more. A bit more. So I have a couple of videos that I'm trying to geolocate in that area, but you saw one of them. I don't want to talk much about what's happening
Okay.
here, but this is from this area from today and yesterday, and I'm trying to make an assessment what's happening and going on, but I don't I think that Russians have fled the positions. And then we were basically on that video trying to help them meet their Jesus Christ, God, Lord and Savior. But I don't yet have much that because they did not tell me exactly what's going on. Just send the videos, and I did not ask because I'm trying to work at the same time as helping you on the stream.
Yeah.
So I apologize, man.
Okay. I just don't know if, because I know that you know things that you're not allowed to talk about, so I don't want to ask awkward questions. But anyways,
Yeah, I want to feel it open source or keep it open source.
yeah. So to the north a little bit, there's very recent airstrikes from a day or two ago. So that's somewhat interesting. It's not terribly interesting, but it's just something to note that there is an airstrike here, almost certainly a Russian airstrike, and they're shelling down to the south. Now, even further south and further east, these two little green eyeballs, we again have heavy shelling that is steadily moving south. Now, this is even more south than it used to be. And it's getting really close to this, our little pyramid line. The little line of pyramids is approximately right here. So Russia is basically more or less shelling their little pyramids at this point. And similarly to the A little bit further east, there is shelling in this forest strip, which is most likely Ukrainian shelling, I imagine, because it's relatively light shelling, as opposed to the entire forest being deleted. So I would imagine that this is probably Ukrainian shelling, and it's well behind their little pyramid line, and I think this may even be in a trench. I'm not entirely sure about that. Let's see if the yeah, I think it's actually behind the trenches even. So yeah. Then again, over here near Verbove, there's heavy shelling and MLR. All these bigger dots are MLR. The little tiny dots you can barely see are shelling. So again, this is not really new information. It's just the shelling is getting even more intense to the point where this intersection probably isn't Russian controlled anymore. It's probably either a gray area or Ukrainian controlled, I imagine. In fact, I should definitely change this. This is definitely, it's not Russian controlled. Because just even like it appears to be like airstrikes and stuff. Like, I really doubt this is Russian control. I should change that after your stream. I'm going to change it. Then up here in this tree line, moving into the town, is getting shelled. We already knew that. It's just interesting to note the changes over time, as we can. You know, as the information comes, we note it. And so this is kind of all of the changes in this area that I could identify on satellite imagery yesterday. So a lot of people were saying that Ukraine is like south of Verbove. There's like zero evidence of that being true, that they've like attacked the town from the south. Like maybe it's possible, but there's no evidence to suggest to actually believe that. There are grass fires to the south, but grass fires mean like nothing, and I don't care. So now to the northwest, yes, there's evidence of Ukrainian advances, but and to the north, there's no evidence of any changes. So liberating Verbove would be it would actually be a pretty significant thing, I think, because you would more or less sidestep all of these major defenses from what I can tell, and you could either attack like along like the wrong way of the trench, or keep moving south. I don't exactly know what the outcome will be if Ukraine can get Verbove, and personally, I am not convinced Russia is just going to give up the town. I think it's going to be a long battle. That's just my gut. My gut is that this is going to be a long battle, unless the Russians are really weak. I guess I don't know. I don't know if they're that weak to just give it up, because it would be very bad for them to just give it up. And at this point, I don't really know why they would, because they still control the northern flank. They still control kind of the western, the southwestern, and obviously they control everything in the east. So I don't know why they would just let Ukraine walk into the town. I think they'll do everything they can to defend it at this point. I mean, just look at like Urozhaine. Urozhaine was in a much worse position. It was completely exposed. You had to go like along this long straight road in the middle of the open to supply it, and it was surrounded on three sides, and it still held for weeks. And it also wasn't even that important. Whereas Verbove is actually very important and doesn't have any of those other issues. It's pretty easy to supply. It's not surrounded, so I don't I don't think it's just going to fall. Why is Ukraine not pushing the West? I'm sure they are trying to push the West.
Ukraine is pushing the West. It's just pushing and being successful are two different things.
Yeah, I've when I look at the satellite imagery, I don't really see many changes in the West. I don't see like forests getting shelled. I don't see like MLR scars. Um, I don't really see that much. I'm sure there is fighting there. Um, it's just like I don't know. Is there anything you can say that I don't know? Like, am I
There's
missing
a
something?
lot happening around Kopani.
Yeah,
Kopani. I
yeah.
don't even know how to say it myself. Kopani. There is 65th and 128th brigades. There is assault on them. I don't know how long they can hold it, but there is action happening there. It's not like we have to remember that being successful and putting pressure is different. It's hard, and it's if you don't want, you try. You have losses, you pull back, you think about something else, come up with different strategy, or look for something else, and doesn't happen or with a snap of fingers.
Yeah, yeah. It's just I don't know what to say because when I look for objective evidence, I don't see any. But that doesn't mean nothing's happening. It's just that I don't see it. So if I don't see it, I don't know what else to say. It's just all I can say is I don't see anything. So um, so anyways, um, I'm going to move on to the next little green eyeball. Um, this green eyeball is north of Bryutny, and it is shelling, um, and mostly they appear to be some sort of rockets, maybe MLR, and also shelling. This is a known Ukrainian position. It doesn't tell us any information we didn't already know, but it is interesting to note nonetheless. South of Urozhaine, again, we see super heavy shelling, lots of MLR. I'm not really sure why they're shooting so much MLR here. It seems like I guess they ran out of Mistas or something, and now they're just shooting grads or whatever they have now. So, but anyways, they're like just shelling the place with MLR constantly, and they're leaving all of these giant scars that you see. That's very typical of a MLR strike, and this is all going on south of Urozhaine. This whole area north of the river is probably like almost 100% chance cleared of Russians, and everything south of the river is likely held by Russia. Now, we did have a video of Ukrainian shelling in this town. I always forget the name of it. But anyways, so Ukraine is shelling there. I don't really see much changes going on here. It appears that for the moment the front line is relatively static. What my impression is that Ukraine is kind of probing, trying to determine what to do next, and it's kind of, and I don't know if this is the right word for it, but it seems like it's kind of like an operational pause, that they are just kind of taking a deep breath before the next phase of whatever they're going to do. They appear to be probing, seeing where they want their next move to be. And again, I showed the video from that was released today, but was actually probably 2 weeks ago, in this position, which is a little bit to the east. And there have been similar attacks along this tree line here, and similar attacks along this road here. So this whole area has these assaults, but there doesn't seem to be too much change in territorial possession or control or whatever. Now, north of Novodonets'ke, there is shelling that in an area that we have not really seen shelling before. So that is very interesting to me. And it is in a known Ukrainian position along this highway, very specifically along this stretch of forest along the highway. Anyway, I don't really think that means too much, but it's something to note that there is increased shelling around the roads to this town. And meanwhile, Russia is complaining that Ukraine is on the verge of capturing the town itself. I don't know if that's true, but it's something they've been continuously complaining about for a week or two, that Ukraine is on the verge of capturing Novodonets'ke. And they refer to this area as a triangle, which is the same way I've referred to it in the past. The triangle being Novodonets'ke, Novoiehorivka, and Kremenchuk. So this is your little triangle. They all these towns defend each other in the way that they're set up. The terrain and the roads and everything, they all defend each other, and it becomes if one falls, it kind of damages the other two. So it's been interesting to me what would happen if one of these towns fell, because any one of these towns puts a lot of pressure on the other two. So if Novodonets'ke falls, then we might see Novoiehorivka also fall a short period later. And then if they both fall, then Kremenchuk is under threat. Although Kremenchuk is much more defended because there's more ground and more trench lines and more tree lines. So it is the furthest into Russian territory. So it is the most defended of the three. But this is what they refer to as the triangle. Near Shevchenko, we have shelling at this intersection in a what is probably a Ukrainian position. I don't know if Ukraine is moving through here to attack or if they're actually set up here. Likely they are actually set up there. I have it marked as a gray area. Recently, Ukraine has been moving towards Shevchenko, and they're likely moving through these forest strips. And this kind of area to the east is more Russian controlled, and this area to the west is more Ukrainian controlled. But I'm not sure if either side is 100% like if this is purely Russian and that's purely Ukrainian, or if it's like some sort of gray area. I'm not really sure. So, but anyways, Ukraine is getting closer to Shevchenko. We talked about this in the last stream. There is a river that runs through here. It's not a incredibly important river, but from what I understand, it is a sort of marshy, muddy type river. So it's the water isn't that important, but it can make it hard to cross. Like you have to use a bridge to get across, and there's only one bridge, so it's kind of a natural barrier. So it kind of looks like it's open ground, but it's not. There's this river, and this river goes all the way to like Novodonets'ke, and then goes up. Anyways, that's kind of more or less all I have to say about the South. Trying trying to remember if there's anything super interesting from yesterday or today. I don't really think there is. There is this one last point um, near Vladimirovka, to the north of it, and there's kind of mine area that Ukraine controls. There was an airstrike. Very exciting. Okay, so that's kind of the south. From what I see, not
What I wanted to ask you, is there
yes.
anything from the river? Any news from
Oh,
there?
from the river itself.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't really have changes from the river. We geolocated like all these like drone attacks. Uh, like there's just all like Ukraine's just been going hog wild with drones over here, blowing up all sorts of stuff, blowing up a T-90 and yeah, it's just all sorts of things. They blow up boats and like fuel trucks and but yeah, that's kind of the most interesting thing, I guess. And then they blew up a Mista. Uh, yeah, and there's been airstrikes across, Russian airstrikes. So yeah, this I don't have news of changes. It's just been lots of like drone attacks and things like this. Yeah, it's just I know some people were talking about all sorts of wild things like pontoons and assaulting towns and stuff. I don't know of any evidence supporting any of this. And yeah, what is a T-90 doing there? It's a good question. I don't know, dude. To be fair, it is on a road, so it is on. It's not just like in a marsh. It's on a road in a marsh, which is different, I guess. Um, but yeah, it's just I encourage people who look at the map to click all the little dots because they're sources and you can watch the videos. Assuming you have a Telegram account, you can watch all the videos. Um, so yeah, I really don't have this was a we thought this was a loaf. But it was actually a van. It was very disappointing. Um, but yeah, I don't have news of changes really on this river. I don't know, do you have news of changes? Am I missing something?
Yeah, sorry, I was muted. No, I actually don't have news. I wanted to ask you because it's like, pontoons, chuck, and etc. I was thinking maybe there are some updates, but
Yeah, there was a pontoon that blew up. I'm trying to find where the pontoon was because I can't actually remember where was the pontoon. Um, it was somewhere, but Russia blew up a pontoon. Um, it wasn't one of Chuck's pontoons though. Um, I can't even remember where it was. They blew it up with an airstrike. Here, I'll find it. I'll find it. I'll find it the old-fashioned way on a spreadsheet. Uh, yeah, they blew it up with an airstrike though. Here, it is. Here. Oh, this is totally different. So this is near Kupiansk apparently. So they blew up a pontoon bridge. I can show you the video. Can Ukraine get the whole Polohy sector? Not easily. It's it's going to be really difficult to capture. You can see this bomb being dropped on a pontoon. No, Polohy is non-trivial to capture. We're talking an enormous feat to capture it. The this will be like its own military campaign. Like that, it doesn't just happen. Like there's kind of two ways to get Polohy. There either Ukraine is going to dedicate like an offensive to get it, because you have to realize that this level the get Polohy would be like it's like on par with as much work to get Tokmak. Maybe a little bit less, but it's like not too different. Ukraine would have to launch its an entire offensive kind of dedicated to it, or Russia would have to like panic and withdraw for some reason. Like those are kind of the two ways you get Polohy. It's a non-trivial ask. It doesn't just happen.
What is yeah, it's very fortified, and but one of the things that Ukraine can do is go around it, but it's just as complex. Like it's, as you can see, how many fortifications there going around, and it's multi-layered, so it's really not as easy as people think. And Russians, they are not as dumb as people say. They do build trenches that have so many uh, like it's so interconnected. It's like maze and underground cities there that connect one trench system with another, and storming them is not as people think, and they learn and they know what they're doing. So it's a big challenge for us.
Yeah, and the trenches around Polohy, just looking at them, I think they're much more advanced and sophisticated than the trenches that Ukraine is fighting through right now. Um, yeah, I think getting through the trenches around Polohy would be much more difficult than the trenches they're going through now. Um, just just their fields of fire are better. They're built, I think, to a higher standard. I'm sure there's tons of minefields too, and I'm sure the minefields are very advanced. Uh, it's just Russia has had so much time to defend Plohi, um, that they have had they've been able to take their time. They really spent a ton of resources defending it. I think it's probably as much or more resources than they've spent defending the area that Ukraine is currently attacking. And this area that Ukraine is currently attacking, I believe, was built after the Plohi defenses. I'm pretty sure. But anyways, I'm gonna move on to I don't remember what this was. Oh, that's just heavy shelling. So near Solodka, heavy shelling. Not super exciting. Okay, so this is the first map change, like significant map change from the satellite imagery. So we know that a while ago, Ukraine went on a significant offensive towards Pisky. Um, and the extent of their success was, um, in some cases, probably exaggerated very significantly. I've heard some people say, like I've heard people say that Ukraine entered Pisky and captured it, and I'm like, no, they didn't. But anyways, so like I've like the people who anyway, there's been a lot of exaggeration about the extent of this offensive, and I don't know how much this talk reached the general public, but or at least the exaggerations of it, I think it was filtered down to something more reasonable. But anyways, so there are people saying that they went all the way to Pisky. They didn't, but they did break through multiple lines of Russian defenses, which I think in and of itself is impressive. There was this line right here that Ukraine broke through, and then there's this line here that we knew Ukraine reached this line, but we didn't know if Ukraine broke this line. And this evidence that we have now suggests that they did break that line as well, and they got to this third line. And the evidence is that they also broke this third line. So this is so first, the evidence of this second line being broken is these extremely heavy shelling that is in fact recent, very heavy shelling, much more shelling than Ukraine could muster in this area. I don't think Ukraine has the ammo to do this type of shelling. And then if you look just north of this position, again, super heavy shelling along this northern forest strip. And to the east, again, super heavy shelling at the intersection of these three forest strips. So it appears to me that Ukraine has either kicked Russia out of these three positions, or Ukraine may actually control these three positions, if not currently, then in the past. And Russia is now counterattacking to regain all of these positions. They've been actively trying to gain them all back for at least a week. This southern position is getting some heavy shelling. It's not as heavy; it's like more like moderate shelling. But there's one little gap in the forest, which we could assume is probably a trench that's being heavily shelled, and the trees around it are being shredded. Anyway, so this is all interesting to me because we knew that Ukraine did this offensive. We knew that they took ground. We didn't know the extent of the ground that they achieved, and we don't know if they kept the ground after they took it, but we do know that Russia is counterattacking, but we don't know exactly where they're counterattacking. But it appears that they are most likely counterattacking this middle intersection, which may currently be Ukrainian controlled, I'm not really sure. And these two positions over here were likely captured at least briefly by Ukraine. And I don't know who currently controls any of this. So that is all interesting to me. And things that we don't really see too much published or spoken beyond the wildly exaggerated rumors. Now, getting towards Avdiivka, there's shelling north of Opitna, which we knew it's not really terribly interesting. But south of Avdiivka, there is this really interesting pattern of shelling. It's so obvious where the shells are landing. You can see these little brownish tan holes in the tree line. So these are all shelling. And it goes from this road up here all the way down to this road here. So this whole area is getting shelled. Now it's not super heavy shelling, but it's interesting how obvious it is to see. In fact, it may even be incendiaries, perhaps. Who knows? I'm not really sure. I do know that Russia does regularly shoot incendiaries in this area, and maybe the incendiaries, burn individual trees without setting a wider fire. I don't know if that's even possible, but otherwise, I'm not really sure how you get these like perfect little holes in the trees unless you're like burning them or something. But anyways, that is going on south of Avdiivka, where we know that Russia has been regularly trying to attack Avdiivka from the south with no success. And this is kind of the only example that I could find on a satellite imagery of Russia actively attacking, at least with artillery. Now, the question is, why would Ukraine try to retake Pisky? I don't know, just because they can. I don't know. Um, There were videos of these Ukrainian assaults. The assaults were basically a bunch of guys on Humvees driving across a field and then getting into combat. But anyways, yeah, I don't know why they would do this, other than just because they can, and to force Russia to either defend or counterattack, and that's exactly what Russia's doing. And it gives Ukraine an opportunity to attrit those Russian forces as they counterattack and try to take this ground back. So I guess that's the point. North of Avdiivka, we see this new position that Ukraine recently took from Russia is getting super heavily shelled. There's even some these bigger circles here appear to be airstrikes, probably larger bombs, and all of this is getting really heavily shelled, including the forest itself. So Russia appears to be upset about losing this position, and similarly, there is an airstrike in the middle of the Russian held ground. I don't know what that airstrike is. Maybe it's a Ukrainian airstrike, or maybe it's a Russian airstrike. I'm not really sure. It's like in the middle of nowhere, but it is brand new. It occurred like 2 days ago, or in the past 2 days. Now, moving on towards Maiors'ke, there's moderate shelling on what?
Andrew, I gotta drop. I
Okay,
hope you have great stream. I gotta get back to work.
all
So
right.
sorry.
Have fun.
So, yeah. So,
There is moderate shelling north of Maiors'ke. This is on what was once considered the Russian side of this kind of forest. Now, this I don't really know how to describe this, but this outer forest is a canal. So this area out here is a canal, and it's flanked by two forest strips. And then there's this kind of inner side, which is I believe it's a highway. It's either a highway or a railway. A railway. Okay, so this inner one is a railway, and it's also flanked by two tree lines. So this outer one, that is the canal, is controlled by Ukraine, and this inner one, that is a railway, was believed to either be a gray area or held by Russia. And now we see pretty solid evidence that this is getting heavily shelled, and it suggests it may not be held by Russia. Because again, Ukraine doesn't have the ammo to do this level of shelling. Ukraine can't just delete trees like this. They don't have that sort of ammo. They might in the south, like near Robotyne, Ukraine might have ammo to do this sort of damage, but everywhere else, Ukraine is more or less, um, using minimal ammo possible. So it's unlikely that Ukraine can do this amount of damage. It implies that Ukraine might actually control, more of this territory. Now, moving on north towards Andriivka, we have this bent. Now, we talked about the spawn camping video that Ukraine did, that Ukraine released like last week, or whenever it was, where Ukraine had a few infantry kind of move into this kind of tree line, and they took a position in like a little foxhole or whatever, and they were taking out Russians as they were running across, and they took out a whole bunch of them. But anyways, now this position is getting pretty heavily shelled. Now, this is very subtle to see because they're not targeting the trees so much. They're targeting the railway itself. So it's more subtle, but all of these little black dots are shelling. And it appears that this area is getting heavily shelled. Maybe not heavily, like moderately shelled. which in itself is interesting. But what's even fascinating to me, and we are getting into, I think, one of the most interesting things that I've seen in a long time. So this is, I'm going to zoom out a little bit. This is the area south of Klishchiivka and north of Andriivka. Okay. Now this, I believe, is a train station. I believe this is a train station. You can see the train tracks. I think this is the platform. I believe this is a train station. I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure this is a train station. But that's not the point. Oh, maybe this is the train station. Whatever, it doesn't matter. I'm gonna zoom back out. Here's the point here. Now, this was once a forest, and by once a forest, I mean like 3 days ago. This was a thick, dense, lush forest, and now it's not anymore. So this is an amount of shelling here. I'm even going to I'm gonna show you it properly. This is gonna take a second for me to load, but I want to show this properly because it's so important. Now I have to remember where I am. I have to find myself. Oh yeah, that's where I am. Let me find it. Oh, here I am. Okay. Now I have to change the date. I'll be right with you. Give me a second. Now load that and load this. Okay. So this is the position on the 26th, which was 5 days prior to yesterday. So 5 days prior to yesterday, this is what it looked like, and this is what it looked like yesterday. So you can see the significant changes over a pretty short period of time. Particularly here, you can see this change. It's pretty easy to see, I think. Now, some of these dark things are shadows from a cloud, but just ignore the black and just focus on the green. You can see damage to all of this greenery. You can see more shelling out to here. Some of this, like this browning is just like grass dying naturally. So in your mind, you can ignore that. But these trees they're not dying naturally. And all of these holes in the ground that are difficult to see. This is very bad imagery. It's very low resolution, but you can see these holes in the ground like this one. It is pretty heavy shelling, okay? This is artillery shelling doing this damage. And even over here by this pond, and it extends kind of up towards the here. This is significant shelling. You can see damage to the railway even, okay? So this is significant. Now, who's doing this shelling? I don't think Ukraine can do this level of shelling. There is a thought that Ukraine could shoot white phosphorus here. They could shoot white phosphorus. The white phosphorus could burn the plants away. The burned plants would then turn brown. That's plausible. But then what is doing all the rest of the damage to the ground? What's making all of the craters in the ground? What is damaging this railway over here? We can see the artillery shelling. We can see the craters. It's not just someone shot white phosphorus. It's not incendiary shells burned down some greenery, okay? This isn't like a grass fire. This is like this is shelling. It's just shelling. I don't know what else to say. This is artillery shelling. So does this imply that Ukraine, and also the shelling is also along this forest strip, does this imply that Ukraine moved down this forest strip into here and is in this area. That's the question. This is incredibly fascinating to me, and this is something to keep your eye on. Your little green eyeball. Keep your eye on the little green eyeball. But anyways, so similarly, now I want to say that if Ukraine is actually here, this could be cutting off, and remember, it's like all of this area. So if they're actually controlling this area, they could be cutting off this road and this railway, which was being used as a road. So it becomes increasingly difficult to supply Klishchiivka. You can still kind of go through this kind of town here, or whatever this is, like these dachas or whatever. And then there's this main road, right? But this main road is being heavily shelled itself. Now it has to be Ukrainian shelling. But it's all along this road in these buildings here. And again, this is fresh. These are fresh shellings. And also, over here, this is probably an airstrike. So these are all things to keep in mind. The sort of analysis you could do here would be, is Ukraine pushing here to establish control over what I'm pretty sure this is a train station, but are they establishing control over this train station thing and simultaneously heavily shelling the only road into Klishchiivka that Russia can really use, in order to starve out their forces in Klishchiivka, force them to withdraw, and then pump Ukraine's own forces along this railroad to establish full control over this area. Is that what's going on? Because that seems logical. So this is all an area to keep your eye on. Russia, their presence on this hill, I don't think is a legitimate threat to Ukraine, especially if Ukraine is taking out this road, which they appear to be doing. There's really no other way to get here. There's this road too, but it's all very fragile. And it's in my opinion, this whole Russian position is on the brink of collapse. I expected them to defend this railway as this was their main line of defense. It appears that they are losing the railway. It appears that Ukraine has penetrated the railway south of Andriivka, and they also may have penetrated the railway north of Andriivka. So penetrating it in two different locations, not good. Remember, this is their main defensive line. There's also rumors that they have that Ukraine is pushing south towards Kupiansk, which would also be bad again. There was a stream that I made a while ago. I don't know what date it was, but I remember saying something like, I think Klishchiivka, Andriivka, Kupiansk, and Urozhaine, I thought all four of these towns would all fall at roughly the same time. And I still think that's roughly true. I think Andriivka is on the verge of collapse. Klishchiivka is basically lost for Russia. Andriivka is basically lost for Russia. Kupiansk and Urozhaine are very iffy. Like, they're being weakened significantly by Andriivka being lost, or maybe not lost, but on the verge of being lost. Ukraine's ability to move down this railway into Kurdyivka. Meanwhile, they also have the ability to attack Kurdyivka from across the canal, and they also have the ability to attack from this vector to the north. They can also attack Urozhaine, moving along the canal from the south. They can also move across the canal at any of these points, and Ukraine also controls this forest that they can attack Urozhaine. So Kurdyivka, Urozhaine are very fragile at the moment. Andriivka and Klishchiivka appear to be borderline lost for Russia, or captured for Ukraine. So this whole position is not looking so good for Russia. Is there a hillside on the Opitna, Odorivka, Mykolivka, Druha line? I don't remember there being a hill. Maybe. Let's look. Let's look. Is there a hill? I think I'm here already. Am I here already? Sweet. Okay. I think it's mostly flat. Ow. I think it's mostly flat. There's kind of like this kind of bump in the middle. Yeah, I wouldn't describe any of this as a hill. I don't know. This is kind of a low ground, I guess. I don't know. Do you describe this as a hill? I don't. I describe it more as as like a little bump. And remember, the vertical axis here, the vertical axis is exaggerated by 300%. So whatever difference you see in this image is 3 times bigger than reality. Anyway, it seems pretty flat to me. Okay, so I guess I'll move on. North of Soledar in Razdelivka, there is an airstrike. Not super interesting, but just I thought I would point it out because it's obvious on a satellite. North of Bilohorivka, there is this light to moderate shelling. It could point to Ukrainian position here, or it could be a Ukrainian attack, or maybe even a Russian attack, and this is Ukrainian artillery. I'm not really sure. It's hard to analyze it with so little information. But south of Bilohorivka, or southeast, or whatever you want to describe this, right here, this position, this Russia has been shelling here for at least a week and a half or so. So I decided to make this this little area under Ukrainian control. This is not to say that this industrial area does not appear to be in Ukrainian control. In fact, right here, there is like right at the edge of this blue area, there's a cliff. The ground kind of goes like on this slant, and then there's a cliff down, and then it's flat. So the Ukraine is like on the slant, but then there's a cliff, and everything below the cliff is a gray area. So anyways, so Ukraine is on that slanted area, not the cliff. Anyway, zooming on out and moving on north to this is one of the hottest combat areas in Ukraine at the moment. Not too many people talk about it, but it is a very hot area. Okay. Okay. Anyways, I'm gonna reload. Okay, so this is a hot area. Why is it hot? Russia is this is kind of Russia's only main offensive going on at the moment. So this is Novoiehorivka. It is near Svatova. It's north of Kremenna. It's south of Kupiansk. So this is where Russia did their kind of offensive a few weeks ago. This offensive was legitimately scary to me. I thought Russia would have more success than they did, but it pushed out to like around here, and then they've been pushed backwards. Ukraine recently retook this forest line here, which is getting absolutely shellacked by artillery, and I'll show you that in a second. And now Russia is Russia is attacking to take it back. They really want to take Novoiehorivka. They really want to keep pushing west, but they've been unable to do so. But they have been doing things like this. Now, these are all airstrikes, so you can count all the airstrikes. That's 4, 5, 6, 7 airstrikes in just this one image. It's a lot of airstrikes, and this is just one image. So anyway, so that's 7 airstrikes here, and then just north of this, just like a few hundred meters north, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 more, maybe 5, maybe 6, maybe 7 more. It's hard to even count them all, but this is also heavily shelled. This whole area is heavily shelled. Over here is shelled, over there is shelled, everywhere is shelled. So this is all very hot combat. Now, this is the Russian side. Again, this is the Russian side. Here's another airstrike, 2 more airstrikes, another airstrike. Whose airstrikes are these? I don't know. They could be Ukrainian airstrikes. They could be Russian airstrikes. Not really sure. But this is also heavily shelled. Now, from what I understand, in the past 2 days or whatever, Russia has lost 6 tanks here. It's a lot of tanks. So Russia is really trying to attack here. It's really important to them. Not entirely sure why it's so important to them. The reason Ukraine can't really stop the Russian attacks at the moment because Russia controls too many river crossings across this river here. You can see the river. It's the Zharabets. It runs basically here. You can see it. But anyways, Russia controls too many river crossings that Ukraine can't stop Russia from crossing the river. Russia then they build up forces around here in Serhivka, and then they attack. They're trying to take back Novoiehorivka, and this whole area north of Novoiehorivka is a major battle zone. This is one of the hottest areas. Probably in combat wise, this is the hottest area that's not in the south of Ukraine. So it's like the hottest area that's not Robotyne or Urozhaine, basically. What kind of these craters are all airstrikes, so they're probably aerial bombs, most likely. But these are all airstrikes dropped by airplanes. They're probably bombs, probably glide bombs. You can see them; they're just kind of hitting. I don't even know if what they're aiming for. Like, they don't appear to be hitting a target. I don't think, like, they're just blowing up. I don't really see the what benefit there is to these. Like, these two are at least like that might be a defensive position. Like this one is like next to a forest strip, so that's probably might be useful. This one appears to just be in the middle of nowhere. But anyways, these are bombs dropped by airplanes. Speaking of bombs dropped by airplanes, I have a video of that. Here, let me show you a video of bombs dropped by airplanes. Okay, so this is, you can see this is what the bombs look like when they dropped. So he like dropped and then like flipped upside down to see the bombs. But anyways, so this is basically what it looks like. Those are what the glide bombs look like. You see that they drop a little bit, the wings open up, and then they glide. Anyways, these bombs, that plane dropped these bombs right here. And you can see that this airplane is like, I don't know, it's like 50 kilometers out, from the front line. So these bombs, they have quite a glide that they can go. I think they have up to 70 kilometers. So I just want to keep in mind that Russia does regularly hit Urozhaine with glide bombs. They regularly hit Malotokmaka. They regularly hit lots of places that, yep, they hit Andriivka today, or yesterday, I mean. So yeah, these glide bombs have quite the range, like, 40 to 70 kilometers, I think. And yeah, they're not necessarily accurate. Sometimes the bombs are very accurate, and sometimes they're not. So not really. It could be jamming. It could be pilot skill. I'm not really sure. They could also just be dropping different types of bombs. I'm not really sure. Yeah, and the range of these bombs is determined by speed you drop them, the way you drop them, like the trajectory, and the speed, the distance. Okay, the height, the trajectory, and the speed. Those are the three. Yeah, like if you drop a bomb, like if you loft it into the air, it goes further than if you just drop it straight down. Like for example. Anyways, so here we are in Novoselivska. I'll just zoom out to see where we are. So there's Kupiansk, and there's Svatova, and we're right here in Novoselivska, north of Novoselivska. So you can see this is the corner of the town. So this kind of northern part, this northern road into the town is being heavily shelled. And that is this position right here. It's this tree line. It used to be a tree line. There's no more trees. So yeah, and the last eyeball that I have for today is this corner, which is near Sinkivka, near Liman Pershi, near Vilshana, and north of Kupiansk. So this right here, this intersection is getting absolutely shellacked. And interesting is this kind of dark brown area that I don't know how to interpret. It's just like these two parallel dark brown lines. Don't know what those are. They're brand new. They appeared yesterday on a satellite image and never before. So yeah, that's kind of all the green eyeballs that I have. I think the green eyeballs pretty much cover all of the news, really. I can't really think of news that aren't green eyeballs, other than things I don't really want to talk about. Like, I don't really feel like talking about the drone attacks. Um, just because I don't really follow the drone attacks so much. I'm not like it's not like my thing. Um, I mean, we do know that this building near Moscow, which I believe made, I think, electronic parts for calibers. This building exploded and was on fire, and we assume this may be the result of a Ukrainian drone, or maybe it's just a weird Russian coincidence. Who knows? So yeah. Oh man, Romanov was arrested. That's terrible. I, I just here. I have something for that. Just give me a second. Here. That's how I feel. Oh, he's arrested. See, Romanov, he uh he brings the sort of joy that I got from reading Igor cry is the same sort of joy that I get out of hearing Romanov cry. I just it makes me so happy. Just uh, I just yeah. There's Romanov, and then there's Igor. Look at these guys. I know. This image is perfect. It's my favorite emoji. Romanov is my favorite emoji. Kozaki Lahari. Yeah, there's yesterday. I think it was yesterday. Or no, it was 2 days ago. We had this video of a toss. Um, this video of a toss, right? So so a toss was shooting here, right? So I did a little bit of investigative work on this toss. I was trying to determine when this happened, and I came to the conclusion that I have no idea. So, uh, yeah. Anyway, it happened right there. I think it either happened, if I remember right, I think it either happened on the 27th or like the 9th. I think it was either, I think those, that was kind of my conclusion. It was either happened like 4 days ago or like 20 something days ago. If it was 4 days ago, it's interesting. If it was 20 days ago, it's not very interesting. Um, yeah, that's kind of the only information I have to say about the Kozachi Lahiri area. Yeah. I also miss Igor crying. As I used to read Igor crying as like candy. Yeah, that's kind of like when I would save it for the end of the day. Um, so I would finish all of my work, and at the end, I got to have my Igor's crying candy, and it was really nice. And I kind of treat Romanov the same way. Um, like I save him for last, and I cherish it because I knew he was going to get arrested, and it wasn't going to last forever. But it was nice. It was nice seeing him cry every once in a while. Um, Anyways, that's kind of all I got. I don't think Igor is going to survive that long, so don't get too attached to him being alive. I don't, I don't think Putin's going to allow that. Any info on the Black Sea? I don't really do the Black Sea. You need to ask like Exit or something for the Black Sea. I don't follow the Black Sea. there were explosions and stuff. But I don't follow the Black Sea. Yeah, yeah, Igor is running for president, and good luck to him. Um, I think, yeah, I think Klishchiivka itself doesn't matter. So like if Ukraine got to the point where, I mean, how they have been for the past like month or whatever, where Ukraine basically controls Klishchiivka because they control the hill. This is not super impressive. I'm not impressed by just having Klishchiivka. I mean, it's a good defensive position. You can hold it. Russia would have a lot of trouble taking this ground back. I don't even know if they have the military capability to do it anymore. So yeah, like holding Klishchiivka is one thing. Not super interesting to me. But when you tell me that Ukraine can push all the way to this railroad and capture the whole railroad, that's a completely different thing. Because now this railroad was Russia's main line of defense. We've talked about this before. This is their main line of defense. Their second line of defense is the highway. After the highway, they don't really have defense. I'm sure. I mean, I'm sure they'll build defenses. Like they probably already have, honestly. But this highway here is like the next main line of defense after this railway. So if Ukraine gets the railway and Russia pulls back to the highway, it gets interesting. This is really getting interesting. Opitna. I mean, obviously, Russia has to do everything in their power to control this section between Opitna and Bakhmut. They have to defend this because if they don't, then they allow Ukraine into Bakhmut, and that's a no-no. So they have to defend this, whether they want to or not. They have to. That's their position that they're in, and this is somewhere where Ukraine could milk a lot of casualties, and that's kind of amusing to me personally. I just think it's funny, and Ukraine could go for Opitna. It's in play. They could go for the highway, or they could just defend the railway. Ukraine could just defend the railway and milk casualties out of this area south of Bakhmut, and they could just sit here and just taking out tanks all day. So there's this interesting article. It was written by the French. I don't remember who wrote it. Let me look at. Let me see if I can find who wrote it. But there was an interesting article written by a French organization that, if I can find it, this is awkward. I might have to put it in the description of the video or something because I can't find it right now. Let me search. I didn't find it. Anyways, this article. Oh, I'm in the. This article written by the French is basically about how many tanks does Russia have left. Oh, here it is. I found it. I'm gonna put the tweet to this article in the description of the video. Oh, oops. I'm going to put it in the description of the video. There, I've done it. I'm also going to load it here. So there's this. All right. How many tanks does Russia have left? Or how many? Anyway, this article that you can read it. I suggest reading it. It's actually interesting. I have not fully digested it yet, so take what I say with a grain of salt because I did not fully digest it. I'm actually going to read it a second time. But more or less what they're saying, that all the things that we already knew, that first, Russia does not have infinite tanks. Second, their tank production is less than they claim. Third, their tank losses are significantly higher than their production levels. And they basically did out the math on their production for every type of tank that they have, and that's both new production and refurbishment for every type of tank, how those numbers have changed over time, and projecting it forward based on various assumptions. So they did multiple different projections based on different assumptions. One assumption was that the war becomes a stalemate where neither side has the capability of attacking. One assumption is that Ukraine continues to attack. And the other assumption, I believe, was that Russia attacks. So I think those are the three assumptions. And they came up with three different numbers for how many tanks Russia would have remaining at the end of 2025, I think. Or it was the beginning of 2025. Yeah, so yeah, those are, anyway, so the point that they were making, and I don't remember the exact numbers off the top of my head. I'm going to read it a second time. So anyway, take everything to a grain of salt. You could read it yourself. You could say, "Wow, you read it wrong." I don't care. But anyway, so the sources there, you can read it yourself. But basically, if I remember right, they were saying that there would be between like 400 and 1,500 tanks in the Russian military at the beginning of 2025. So between 400 and 1,500. And if I remember right, that is all of the tanks in their entire military. We're not talking about how many tanks they'll have in Ukraine. We're talking how many they will have total, which is a different thing entirely, because they can't put all of their tanks in Ukraine. So if they only have 400 tanks left, like, it makes you wonder if they could even afford to have them in Ukraine at that point. Maybe they would never even get to that point because they'd have to pull out. So anyways, so this is the sort of information in that article, and you can go read that yourself. But situations like this, where you force Russia to defend a position that is difficult to defend, and the only way to defend it is by attacking, and you attack with tanks, you could milk tanks. Maybe you destroy a tank a day. And remember before I said up here in Novoiehorivka that this area reported 6 destroyed tanks in the past day? It's a lot of tanks. It's a lot of tanks. What is the name of that organization? It is this. It is the Institute of Action Resilience, or whatever. It's that. Words in French. I don't speak French. Sorry. Anyway, so the article itself is in English. I'm sure they have it also in French. Here, let me see if I can load the article real quick. It's not going to be real quick. Okay. Maybe it was. No, it's not. It's a very big file, and you have to download all of it to look at it. So it's currently downloading. Yeah, it's a very interesting article. I suggest reading it. The link is in the description. Well, the tweet is in the description, and then you can click it and read it. The article talks about like what tanks are in which facilities and the numbers like projecting the numbers out, what casualties they take, etc. So this is it. This is the article. So these are like the projections. So it's like the stagnation of the front projection. So for example, so that they break down the tanks into various groups, so that they're projecting at the beginning of January 2025 that there would be like 600 T-72s and like 200 T-62s and whatever. So you can read this article. It's interesting. And these are the various different projections. So there's one of them, and these have error bars, right? So it's like 400 to 600, and this is like whatever to whatever, and it has all the numbers in the chart. You could go read it. It has all these different conclusions. See, some articles have a conclusion. This is not a normal article. It's got multiple conclusions. Anyways, you can go read that. It's something to keep in mind. The attrition of the Russian forces, their ability to make up for their losses. So yeah. Anyways, that's all I have for today. I will be back on. Oh, I should say, for the people who joined at the end and missed the beginning, Konstantin was here. He was talking about his fundraiser that he is doing. His fundraiser is for the 82nd Assault and the 92nd Assault Brigades. He's trying to raise $50,000 to buy radios, drones, and power stations. Part of the reasoning for this is that the 92nd Brigade has gone from a mechanized brigade to an assault brigade, and as a result of being an assault brigade, they require more reconnaissance, and if you need more reconnaissance, that means you need more radios, and you need more drones, and you need more charging stations, because the charging station is what powers your radio and your drone. So that is what his fundraiser is. So if you have the ability to donate, we would appreciate it. And if you can or you can't donate, whatever, if you can share this with other people, that would also be fantastic. The issue, what's going on in Sinkivka is nothing changed. The Russians lie all the time. They're like, unless the situation has dramatically changed in the past like 2 hours, then nothing's happened. But anyways, I will. That's it for the stream. I'm done. I'll be back on Tuesday with Constantine, maybe. Maybe other people. Who knows? I hope you all have a nice weekend, and thank you for listening. And you can feel free to share the video with anyone you think will find it interesting. So thank you to everybody for coming, and goodbye.